Ma'am, please start.
So, good morning, everyone. Welcome to the last series of PhD Dialogue to celebrate the Rashtriya Poshan Ma 2021, converging towards a healthy walk through life. Today's session is going to be taken by Ms. Meghna Patel, and her topic is on food fortification using local ingredients. And she is a PhD student of the Department of Foods and Nutrition at the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Baroda. We all know that food fortification is a big thing in India and world, and they're trying and claiming to reduce malnutrition. But there are many strategies to reduce malnutrition, and one of them is the use of local ingredients. The major fortificants these days are iron, zinc, calcium, and of course, there are an arrays of vitamins that are used in fortification of food. But then there are a lot of issues related to acceptability, digestibility, and of course, the bioavailability of these when they get inside the body. So let's look at what Meghna has to say on use of local ingredients for fortification of food. And today's moderator is Neha, Ms. Neha Soni, and I invite her to kindly proceed further. Over to you, Neha.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Good morning, everyone. I bid a very warm welcome to respected madam and my dear friends. We had different series of webinars on various topics, which were already mentioned in yesterday's class on the occasion of National Nutrition Month 2021. Today, we will have discussion on food fortification. The data shows that 70% of people in India do not consume enough micronutrients such as vitamins and minerals. About 70% of preschool children suffer from anemia caused by iron deficiency, and 57% of preschool children have subclinical vitamin A deficiency. So, the deficiency of micronutrients or micronutrient malnutrition, which is also known as hidden hunger, is a serious health risk. Unfortunately, those who are economically disadvantaged do not have access to safe and nutritious food. Others either do not consume a balanced diet or lack variety in the diet because of which they do not get adequate micronutrients. Often, there is a considerable loss of nutrients during the processing of food. One of the strategies to address this problem is fortification of food. To gain much insights into it, let's welcome our today's speaker, Ms. Meghna Patel. Ma'am, wait a second. So, uh, Meghna, she has qualified UGC NET and currently pursuing PhD from Department of Foods and Nutrition, Faculty of Family and Community Sciences, the Maharaja Sayajirao University of Vadodara. She has completed RD internship from Dheeraj Hospital, Vadodara in 2019. She did her undergraduation and post-graduation in dietetics from Department of Foods and Nutrition, the Faculty of Family and Community Sciences, MS University. Presently, she is working as assistant professor at Department of Clinical Nutrition, Srimati B.K. Shah Medical Institute and Research Center. She is admission coordinator at Department of Paramedical Sciences, Somandip Vidyapith. Also, she is PG internship trainer at Department of Clinical Nutrition, Dheeraj Hospital. She is external teaching faculty for UG students of Sumandeep Nursing College, Sumandeep Vidyapith. She had worked as project assistant in BFHI, that is Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative project from the MS University in 2018. She has published 3 research articles and various clinical case studies in newsletter. She has introduced oral and poster presentations at various state and national conferences. So now I request Ms. Meghna to throw some light on today's PhD dialogue. I request all to put their questions in the text box. We'll have the question answer session in the last. So over to you, Meghna.
Thank you so much, Nia, for the kind intro. Is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay. So today we will be discussing about food fortification. And before talking about food fortification, let's look into the need for taking this step. So we all know nutrition is an important human right, especially for some of the most vulnerable group in society, that is women, girls, children who pass through an intergenerational cycle of multiple forms of deprivation. It is a foundation for human development given its ability to reduce the susceptibility to diseases, infection, comorbidities, incidence of death, enhancing the learning capability and work productivity. Access to proper nutrition is critical to ensure better learning outcomes in education, healthy human capital in the workforce, and more equitable society. But India faces a development paradox of being one of the fastest growing global economies in the world, and contrast of having an estimated 189.2 million people, that is 14% of the population, as undernourished. The percentage of children under the 5 year of age who are stunted, wasted, and underweight are given 38, 21, and 42% respectively. And also 53.1 of the women of reproductive age between 15 to 49 years are anemic. So these metrics highlight the prevalence of chronic malnutrition among women, girls, and children in India. A dip in India's ranking in Global Hunger Index has rightly created a stir in the country. The continued focus on calories along with the ignorance of nutritional aspects of food are responsible for the distressed state of food and nutrition system in our country. The present ranking is an outcome and a true reflection of the same, that is 94th. And it is a high time that we look deeper into the issue and find a possible solution to a dire straits we are in. So 3 out of 4 indicators that are used for this global hunger index to rank countries deal with nutrition. And these indicators go beyond just meeting the calorie requirements. In simple words, a balanced diet with all the nutrients, including micronutrients. So the real problem is malnutrition and not a lack of food. Furthermore, since past 2 years, COVID has exacerbated the malnutrition status of vulnerable communities in India. The rate of improvement in nutritional status has not kept pace with India's significant gain in economic prosperity and agricultural productivity during recent decades. India needs to go beyond just stomach filling or meeting the calorie requirements, and the crisis of malnutrition requires the provision of food with required nutrients, that is micronutrients. And yes, need a leap in solving for hidden hunger and not just be confined to hunger. So where are we lacking? Researchers have established that in general, diets rich in developing countries are deficient in vitamin A, zinc, and iron, that are micronutrients and vitamins, resulting in increased mortality, morbidity, and health and development costs. In India, only 9.6% of the children between 6 to 23 months of age are able to get minimum acceptable diets. That means children of comparatively economically well-to-do families too suffer from malnutrition, that too during the most crucial phase of their mental and physical development. So, what are the options? Food supplements that are micronutrient-rich capsules or food products fortified during processing appear to be the fastest solution. However, besides the low purchasing power of the poor, constraints like lack of better infrastructure, efficient technology, and reliable distribution system make it an unattainable solution. The next option could be implementation of efficient information, education, and communication program, motivating consumer to change their food habits in favor of nutrient-rich foods. Again, this is costly and of course time-consuming option. Third is consumption of diversified diets may appear to be sustainable options to control malnutrition, but this does not seem to be possible in short term as it will require a change in people's food habits and preferences. So, food fortification is an effective solution to malnutrition. Before that, just we will go through what is food fortification. Like it is a process in which micronutrients are added to foods, even the chemically, biologically, or physically. And it began in 1920s with the salt iodization in Switzerland, and since then the prevalence of fortified food has increased significantly. And in 2019, 137 countries mandated fortification of at least one food with while 68 mandated fortifying two foods. So most of the food fortification efforts involve adding few vital micronutrients that is vitamin A, iron, iodine and zinc to these foods. So there was a slow start for food fortification in India. In India, it began in 1950s with the vegetable oil fortification and salt iodization. And in 2000s, the government introduced fortification in other commodities that is rice, wheat, and after 60 years of gap. So the momentum accelerated in 2016 when countries' food regulator, that is FSSA, established the standards for fortification of rice, wheat flour, edible oil, double fortified salt, and milk. It also established the Food Fortification Resource Center, which developed the logo that is shown here and helped to build the capacity for the food producers. Now, the center also issued new mandates to use these fortified staples in safety net programs such as double fortified salt and fortified edible oil through midday meals and ICDS. So even though fortification is relatively simple and low cost process for most of the staple, it was estimated that less than 20% of the business to consumer production that of edible oil, salt and milk and about just 3% of the wheat flour and 0.1% of the rice are being fortified. Estimates also indicate that 40 to 60% of the fortified food production is either not reaching or not being consumed by the vulnerable population, mostly the low income groups. Among the reasons for low uptake by this vulnerable population are offtake of fortified foods by only just few states, leakage in public chain, limited penetration of private distribution channels in rural areas. And of course, COVID-19 has exacerbated these problems due to disruption in the food supply chains and last mile deliveries as well as in school because of school shutdowns. So here comes into picture biofortification and food to food fortification. So, what are the difference between biofortification and conventional fortification and food to food fortification? First, we will see conventional fortification is adding of micronutrients to the food. If we see the example that is fortified salt, fortified oil, all this comes in the conventional fortification. So it is just adding any one or more essential nutrient, whether or not it is normally contained in the food. It is for the purpose of preventing or correcting any deficiency. Then biofortification is any processes other than conventional that can be addition of food whereby nutrient content or bioavailability is increased. So basically, it is a practice of deliberately increasing the content and that is vitamin and mineral through agronomic practices, conventional plant breeding, and modern biotechnology, so as to improve the nutritional quality of the food supply and to provide of public health benefits with minimal risk to health. And if we talk about food to food fortification, it is addition of micronutrient dense food to increase the amount of bioavailable micronutrients in the food. So biofortification, it is an agriculture-based approach for the development and dissemination of micronutrient-rich crops, offering a viable option to mitigate malnutrition and hidden hunger. But unlike the options which demand considerable time and resources, it is a simple and economical, and it mainly targets the poor and the rural households where the home production and consumption of staple foods is significant and consumption of the marketed surplus is most likely to remain within the community. So, what are the benefits? Enriching the staple crops with required micronutrients reduces the people's nutritional vulnerability because during the economic shocks, the poor tends to reduce their consumption of higher value food commodities that are naturally rich in micronutrients. And with one-time R&D investment, these seeds could spread through the existing seed distribution system. So, and even farmers with limited resources and market access can grow biofortified crops since they do not need repeated purchase of these seeds year after year. They can use this as a part of their produce as seeds for the next year also. So, moreover, it an increase in the adoption of seeds through efficient seed distribution channel will ensure it is economically remunerative for growers. So for consumers, awareness has to be created about the subsequent health benefits while ensuring the easy access and affordability of the produce. So here is one research article, not sufficient evidence available that biofortification can improve, but I got one paper. It was conducted in Maharashtra in 2016 to determine the efficacy of iron for biofortified beans with 86 mg of iron per kg, and results revealed that there was an improvement in the hemoglobin level and total body iron after the consumption of these biofortified iron beans. So, of course, our government has taken an initiative on biofortification. On last year, on World Food Day, the Prime Minister noted that common varieties of some crops lack key micronutrients we all know that are essential for the good health, and thus the biofortified varieties were developed to overcome these shortcomings. So he dedicated 17 biofortified seeds variety of 8 local and traditional crops to the nation, including the wheat, rice, and that are being available to Indian farmers. So this biofortified varieties, along with other ingredients, are expected to transform our normal Indian thali to Nutri-Thali. So these varieties have been developed by utilizing this local land races and farmers variety. The Pradhan Mantri Matru Vandana Yojana and Poshan Abhiyan (ICDS) Midday Meal Scheme and National Food Security Act are well intentioned and have been able to provide this food to people to survive. But however, the recent Global Hunger Index ranking has reminded us that the need of the hour is to go beyond only hunger and to solve the issue of hidden hunger. So here biofortification is a reason. So we can see the varieties of crops, that is wheat, that was biofortified. That's variety that is CR done 315. It is iron content is zinc content is increased. Then in some variety protein, iron, and zinc is fortified, and in some protein and iron are fortified. Then also maize is enriched with lysine and tryptophan as it lacks amino acid. So these are the finger millets that are enriched with calcium, iron, and zinc, and mustard that has low uric acid and it has enhanced oleic acid in groundnut. Although the first step towards this option has been taken, the India needs a comprehensive integrated plan for scaling up the development and consumption of these biofortified crops. striving at nutrition security for its citizens. So it's need a multi-layer integrated approach for ensuring a well-performing biofortification system. So let us look into food to food fortification. What is food to food? It is an emerging food based strategy that can complement the current strategies in the ongoing fight against micronutrient deficiencies. And while the practice of compositing or blending of foods has been applied for centuries at our household level to enrich the green foods with key macronutrients, food to food is now viewed as an emerging strategy which can complement the current strategies fighting against micronutrient deficiency. So before looking at this food fortification using local ingredients, let us see what are the crops that are grown around us. State-wise, if we look first, starting from our own state, Gujarat, the major crops grown here are bajra, jowar, maize, ragi, wheat, rice, and the oil seeds are castor seeds, groundnuts, soya beans, sesame. Pulses are tur, mangal gram, moong, mat, urad, and the cash crop, yes, sugarcane and tobacco. So if we look next, Maharashtra, its principal crops grown here are rice, jowar, bajra, wheat, tur, moong, urad, and the major producer of oilseeds and groundnuts, sunflower, soybean are the major oilseeds grown here. Karnataka, of course, Rabi and like July to October, it is paddy, maize, pulses, groundnut, red chilies, cotton, soybean, sugarcane, turmeric, and on a rotation basis, October to March is wheat, barley, sesame, peas. April to June, it's oilseed production, and coconut and cashews are around the year. Next, West Bengal, of course, rice is considered to be the principal food crop, and other than that, it also includes maize, wheat, barley, and potatoes, and tea is another important cash crops. In Punjab wheat is considered to be the principal crop, and other than that, maize, barley, potatoes, onion, rapeseed, mustard, sunflower are also there. The main fruit grown here is quinoa, that is similar to that of orange, and guava and mangoes. Yes, Rajasthan, the rabi crops that are winter crops sown in the October and November and it is harvested in the March, April. So they are barley, wheat, gram, and pulses and oil seeds. And Kharif are the crops that are grown in summer and seeded in June, July, and it is harvested in September, October. And they are the bajras and pulses, jowar, maize, and groundnut. Talk about Madhya Pradesh. Of course, rice, jowar, bajra, but majority of the region grows tur, soybean, groundnut, urad dal. So the question here is, so majority of the states grow cereals, pulses, oils, but apart from wheat and wheat products, how frequently do we consume these crops, and are we really aware what's grown in our surrounding? So can be an interactive session from here onwards, and you can also share your experience regarding particular food ingredients that you or your family members incorporate in any recipes. So yeah, we start with cereals and millets. If we talk about cereals and millets, these all are superfoods I have picked nutritional point of view that are rich in minerals besides having protein and fibers. So majority of the population consume wheat and rice on routine basis. So if we talk about amaranth seeds, that is rich in protein, minerals, fibers, and yes, highest content among the cereals and millets. It can be grown throughout the year in India and it grows well in hot Indian summer. So what can we prepare from it? It can be used in the form of flour. It can be incorporated in while making dough. It can also be added in porridge to make it healthier for babies, or it can also be added in laddu preparation. So next we can, if we talk about juwar bajra, it is used in rural areas, but barley, juwar bajra, apart from making rotla, we can always incorporate making pancakes or Gujarati dishes that is muthia, handwa, dosa, which can be prepared using this cereal flour that is jowar, nachni, bajri, and whole wheat. Can be multi flour dish can be prepared, and we should not restrict ourselves using specific ingredients to specific recipes. That is, breakfast is not all about poha and upma only. It can be yesterday's prepared roti, or it can be khakra that is prepared from multi-flour atta and so on. So likewise, we can uh, enrich the nutritional value. So coming to ragi, it is very popular nowadays for its nutrient content awareness, and people are incorporating in various recipes, and it has adapted the taste bud also. So it can be used in the preparation of dosa and idli, and it turns out to be really healthy and tasty. And again, oats again is very popular, not in rural areas, but yes, for its easy availability and time-saving recipe, that is ready-to-eat oats are really gaining popularity. But we always say that to avoid our packaging food, it also comes with added sugar and sodium. So the one that comes in a loose packet, the actual pure one, I can say, very easy to incorporate in recipes, be it in powdered form or roasted, or can be used as such. So it can be used in preparation of steamed dhokla also. So we always should try to incorporate these superfoods in our routine recipes. So coming to pulses, so the ones shown here are rich in minerals, in particular iron. So usually at our home, if we say roti, sabzi, dal, rice, the dal is mostly the tuar dal. So we should always try to make different dals, and we get complaints from pediatric patients relative that particular pediatric child is not consuming dal. So we explain them to give it in different form. Say for example, mixed dal chilla. So adding any five dals to it, and over that adding vegetables over it. It can always be, now it is loaded with fibers and micronutrients apart from protein and fat, of course. So also my mother practices of cooking rajma and adding it into the gravies in puree form. So apart from vegetable gravy, pulses are also incorporated. So likewise, we can always use it and incorporate and enrich. So yes, superfoods, nuts and oilseeds. So it is very, very popular and in trend nowadays. So these seeds are usually used in laddu preparation or snack preparation, and that is nothing but fortification in itself. And Anisha ma'am had rightly emphasized on using dry fruit powder in milk instead of chocolate-based commercial drinks. So if one cannot afford that dry fruits, we can use even seed powders are always an option. So which can be roasted or powdered to improve our sensory buds. And nowadays makhana is also very popular. So for its exceptional nutrient profile, it is a rich source of magnesium, iron, phosphorus. It can be consumed roasted or can be powdered and incorporated in various recipes. So we can also add in homemade sweets as well. Green leafy vegetables. So they are the rich source of micronutrients, but sadly, most of the children avoid eating in a cooked form. So we can always add this leafy in our traditional recipes. That is, if we say Gujarati recipes, muthia, handwa. Apart from that, our dips, traditional dips, that is green chutney, can be modified by using these leafies instead of just preparing it using coriander leaves and mint leaves, and over that squeezing it with lemon. So use all these leaves in preparation of your traditional dips, and there are n number of hidden ingredients that we need to discover and incorporate in our daily recipes, and this can be the most effective way for combating the macronutrient deficiency across the country. But because every region has its own unique crop, we just have to explore and spread awareness of how to use it. And recently, yes, Vanisha ma'am has published a book on food anthropology comprising of all the states, food culture, beliefs, and food they consume, their traditional recipes. So that is indeed a handbook for the diet counselors, and without knowing their culture, their beliefs, and food and eating practices, we fail to counsel them effectively, and our motto will not be accomplished. So yes, buy food with thought, cook it with care, Use less of white ingredients, buy local foods, serve just enough, and use what is left. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Meghna, for such an interesting and informative session. So now we'll go ahead with the questions. Yes, Vanisha ma'am.
Thank you, Meghna, for a very interesting, informative session on how we can use natural ingredients for fortification. My question to you is, what are the three major fortificants that have been used over the past 1 year, and what could be done, could have been done, or could have been promoted instead of those chemical fortificants?
Ma'am, the major fortificants that are promoted, that is zinc, iron. Zinc and iron, ma'am, is
I
it
asked
was
past 1 year. So, what happened in 1 year, and what were the three uh, things which were promoted widely?
ma'am micronutrients.
Anything. It is fortificants.
Okay, ma'am. That functional foods, ma'am.
So, first tell me, what do you mean by fortificant?
Ma'am, addition
And
of
what So let me finish my questions. What is food fortification? That is number one question. And second is, what are the three major nutrients which are fortified in India, used for fortification of food in India?
ma'am, the food fortification means addition of nutrient, if by whether it is a chemically or biological or physically in our food. And the major nutrient that are fortified are iron, zinc, and iodine.
Okay. Now, continuing with my first question, what were the three major nutrients which were sold across last 1 year to fortify foods, or were just eaten alone or prescribed,
Ma'am,
which could
vitamin
have been
C,
avoided? Yes, tell
vitamin
me.
C, vitamin C and zinc,
And three,
vitamin A,
you're in a
ma'am.
hospital setup. You should know this. Anybody? Raise your hands. What was
Ma'am,
happening in last 1 year?
ma'am, COVID,
What were the three nutrients which were prescribed, fortified, and sold?
ma'am, vitamin A.
No. So it's vitamin D,
Okay, yes,
vitamin
ma'am.
C, and zinc. Okay. Now coming back to sources of these in terms of natural. Tell me
Ma'am, milk
how
and milk products are the rich source of vitamin D, that
how
are
much
animal
of
sources.
vitamin D is there in milk and milk products? In which milk and milk product?
Ma'am, cow's milk, buffalo's milk.
How much vitamin D is there? And what is the RDA?
Ma'am, RDA is 600 mg per day.
Vitamin D.
Sorry, calcium. And
What
vitamin,
is the RDA for vitamin D, Devanshi? The new RDA, ICMR guidelines. Neha, dietetic students.
ma'am, 15, 600 IU.
So what is the unit of vitamin D, Meghna?
International unit, ma'am.
Then
IU,
how do you say mg?
600 IU.
Some things, okay. The second one was zinc. People went berserk by using food which were fortified with zinc. and there was markets which were claiming that this is a food rich in vitamin C or rich in zinc and rich in vitamin D. What could have been done? Karamjeet, could you answer this question?
Ma'am, I think instead of fortification, supplements were used, was in trend at that time.
Yes, immediately supplements were in trend, but till now these are fortified. You will see so many now new products on the shelf with added zinc, with added vitamin D. Okay, Meghna, coming over to you. What are the foods which are fortified with vitamin D in this country? Government
Um,
fortified as per the rule.
Ma'am, oil,
Okay.
cooking oil.
Now tell me, you are saying that instead of you mentioned three: iron, iodine, and which is a third ingredient you
Mhm.
said is fortified in this country?
Ma'am, zinc.
Okay, so what are the natural sources of these?
Ma'am,
In your
zinc is
hospital setup, what will you, how will you promote? Suppose a lady comes, a pregnant lady comes, she's got all these three deficiencies. How are you going to take care? Or she's on borderline, maybe mild deficiency. How are you going to help her improve her status?
yes, ma'am. Ma'am, first of all, it's not possible for them. They are in low income group, so we cannot suggest them to have fortified food. So instead of that, we can suggest them to have a handful of nuts. It can be groundnut also, chana groundnut. They all and sesame seeds and all these are rich in zinc and micronutrients. So they can have a handful of that, and we always tell them to have this any five ingredients. We make them memorize that they can consume it on daily basis, and we suggest them the recipes. They even don't know how to make laddus and sukris. So we tell them to how they can incorporate these ingredients into these recipes, and yes, ma'am. So likewise, we can improve their micronutrient profile.
Ma'am, actually here to the ANC mothers, we used to give the kit in which jaggery, sesame seeds, oil, ghee, wheat flour, etc. Are included. So likewise, when they come at every month for the checkup, we used to give them that kit. And every Wednesdays and Saturdays, we do them counseling.
So, how will your zinc be taken care of? How will your iodine be taken care of in the kit that you're giving and the ingredients that you mentioned?
So yeah, so sesame seeds, jaggery, etc., rich in zinc, calcium, iron, and we also used to tell them the recipes, how they can have it on a daily basis.
All right. Anybody else? Please ask questions. Mansi, you can start.
Uh, Karamjit has one question that are these biofortified seeds are easily available?
Yes, now government has initiated and they have started distributing this biofortified seeds to the farmers.
Okay. And in rural areas, generally families buy grains and not flowers. So how to fortification can be done there?
In rural areas. If the biofortified seeds are available, so they can always use that, and no need of fortification after that. But they buy grains and not flowers. So if they buy grain, they must be having They can always buy two, three grains. That is not just wheat. They consume bajra, jowar, so they can always mix it and prepare rotla.
Okay. Uh, there's one question from Sabat that are these foods are affordable and in market apart from the fortification logo, how can this be identified?
Are the biofortified seeds are easily available. It has just been launched, so it will take time for getting it available across the country. But yes, it is available, and affordability, I have to check about the cost, that is biofortified seeds. But government is distributing these seeds. So, and in the market, apart from F plus logo, how can this be identified? I didn't get the question, sir, but in the market, apart from F plus logo, how can these be identified? Means biofortified seeds, can how can it be
Yes,
identified?
at times the logo is not there, but it's just
No,
on
it's
the packet.
yeah, logo
At
is
times the
not.
logo is not there, but only the on the packet it's written that added with the vitamin D or
Enriched with
iron.
vitamin C,
Yes.
mostly in the cooking oils that are there. So yes, we can check the label beside behind the food package, but logo is always present, F plus logo, if it is fortified.
Okay. Mansi ma'am has one question. Yes, ma'am.
So Meghna, you of course you've mentioned that the work on biofortified seeds and all it's still in the process. Much research is required. My question is from the community nutrition point of view. That do you think that if the government is making all these things available, if the government is making it mandatory to use fortified products and promoting them in their own programs where supplementation is being done, so you think that will work better, or this strategy of fortifying the seeds and making it available to the farmers, will that work better? Which do you think will be much better option?
Ma'am, both of these complement each others. They can we go hand in hand. Biofortified seeds will take much time, but if we create awareness among the communities in Anganwadis about this fortifying foods using local ingredients, so it if it goes hand in hand, then only be in we can combat this malnutrition faster. So just
Right.
one,
So
yes, ma'am.
yeah, go ahead, Meghna.
Ma'am, just
Uh,
one, yeah.
yeah, yeah. Same.
Ma'am, just biofortified seeds will not work. It will take time. So with that, other strategies also has to be implemented.
Minga, uh, can you tell us what are the various strategies?
Ma'am, that is food fortification using these local ingredients.
Yes. So, can you tell us what happens to that local ingredient in the body? For example, if I am having a roti which has iron in it, that is local ingredient, but then what
Yes, ma'am.
happens? So, you're giving me a cereal which has iron in it and I'm consuming it.
Yes,
Even
ma'am.
then, my hemoglobin is not increasing. So, why?
Ma'am, it is a wheat product. We can always enrich it with other flours that are rich in iron.
Okay, so I'm using all flours which are rich in iron and I made a roti. But still, my iron is not increasing. What is the reason?
Ma'am, because of the bioavailability, we can it is important to if we can have it with dal. pulses and squeeze it with a lemon, then we can improve the bioavailability.
Okay. So what are the friends of iron and what are the inhibitors of iron?
Ma'am, vitamin C is the friend of iron. It helps in the absorption, and of course, calcium phosphate, phosphorus are the inhibitors. They tend to suppress the absorption, tend to reduce the absorption in our body. So we always say not to consume milk and milk products with it. With poha or upma, we should not consume tea, coffee, milk.
Are there any other inhibitors of iron?
Um,
Okay, let me make it simple. Suppose a
and
person is
phytates.
having,
Yes, ma'am.
yes, and tannates and
Yes, ma'am.
oxalates. Okay,
Yes.
so this is what I was looking forward to in your presentation, food combinations. Because when your topic is fortification of foods using natural ingredients, of course you have to identify the natural ingredients, which you've done very beautifully. But what are the friends and what are the enemies? That means what are the inhibitors and what are the enhancers of a
Yes.
particular nutrients. If you do not combine your food with nutrients which do not help in absorption, the bioavailability, and now the new term is bioefficacy, is affected. Okay, so even
Yes.
if I'm having loads, so we just need a max iron which is required in the body ranges from 28 to 32 in adults, depending on the physiological status. So even if I'm taking around 12 or 13 grams of milligrams of iron in my food, even if that is also not absorbed, that is a problem. So this is the entire problem of this country when we're talking in terms of public health nutrition, and we're talking about food combination is a huge problem in India, and therefore we have to get back to our roots of traditional meal systems. And what were these traditional meals? They always had a dash of lime. Okay, a piece of lime was served, a little chutney was there which was green, again has absorption, improves in the absorption. Okay, and then so these friends and foes of nutrients have to be very carefully undermined, and I think we're going to continue this in our next lectures when we have when I'll be taking all these sessions. Okay, so think about these, especially very important in hospital setups. Just telling them that eat bhaji doesn't help because it is full of oxalates. So how do you reduce oxalates? Simple techniques like boiling. So we help them to blanch and then dip it in cold water. That will remove the water soluble oxalates. So same way tannates. Do not consume X with Y. So what is it? The chai and bhakri combination is very problematic in this country, because this is how a morning starts, and that's why we are having this problem of anemia, which is the largest problem, a public health issue in this country. Okay, so over to you, Neha, for conclusions. Or if there are any questions, you can take them.
Yes, Karvita is having one question. That fortifying rice is proven to be ineffective in reducing the prevalence of malnutrition. So, what must be the reason for that?
Fortifying rice is proven to be ineffective. You're talking about which fortified rice? That biofortified rice.
Garvita? Uh,
Because I haven't come across ineffective in reducing the prevalence. Yes, Kartika.
Garvita, can you hear?
Yes, Karvita, go ahead.
Your voice is not audible. Yeah, yeah, say.
I'm talking about rice that is available in the market, fortified rice.
Okay. So they are fortified with zinc and iron.
Yes, micronutrients.
Okay, because I haven't come across that, but maybe it is mostly the prevalence of malnutrition is in rural areas, and they really don't consume this fortified rice because they have their own farms. So it may be because of that the prevalence has still not been reduced.
Okay, okay.
Uh, okay. So,
1 minute, Neha.
yes,
Gargita,
ma'am.
can you please explain to Meghna what are the various micronutrients which are there in the rice, which is fortified, and why government has made it compulsory in many places?
Ma'am, mostly zinc and zinc is the main uh, micronutrient.
We can't hear. Anyways, Neha, you can conclude.
Okay, ma'am. So to conclude, Meghna very well explained the fundamentals of nutrition. Also, she proclaimed the current scenario of malnutrition which India is facing right now. She signified India's global hunger index and conclude that the real problem is malnutrition and not the lack of food. She explained various alternatives to combat malnutrition, that is, the use of food supplements, implementation of information, education, and communication, that is, IEC material, and the consumption of diversified diets. But due to some or the other reasons, they are not feasible to use, and thus she described an effective solution to malnutrition, that is, food fortification. Then she stated the startup of food fortification in India and the deep insight into various types of fortification like food to food fortification, conventional fortification, and biofortification. Like what are the differences between them? Then we saw the government initiative on biofortification to which our PM Shri Narendra Modi had dedicated 17 biofortified seed varieties of 8 local and traditional crops to the nation, including wheat, paddy rice, and we saw the initiation of Nutri Thali. Then we saw that rice and different types of wheat varieties have been enriched with the nutrients like zinc, iron, protein, etc. Millets, which are enriched with calcium, iron, zinc. Groundnuts with enhanced oleic acid. Now here for the biofortification to conclude that it needs a multi-layer integrated approach for ensuring a well-performing biofortification ecosystem. And for food to food fortification, we looked various crops which are grown in India in different states. Like in Gujarat, it's cereals and millets, pulses, oilseeds, cash crops, etc. And principal crops grown in states like Maharashtra, Karnataka, West Bengal, Punjab, Rajasthan, Madhya Pradesh, etc. And we saw various cereals and millets, pulses, nuts, and oilseeds, green leafy vegetables as superfoods, which can be fortified in different local recipes. So here is an end to this webinar series. With this, on behalf of our whole PHN class, I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Professor Vanisha Nambiar Madam, our moderator, our mentor, sorry, for the support, encouragement, guidance, and giving us a chance to conduct these events on a particular forum. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you all being here. Thank you.